wrapped up yesterday's reflection on how forgetting God leads to bitter consequences, it felt like staring into a mirror. We all have moments when we drift, don't we? But today invites us to look deeper, not just at consequences, but at what God is doing even in the drift.
That's real, because sometimes what looks like neglect is actually divine preparation. Like how in our Ghanaian homes, a parent might sit back quietly while their child struggles with a chore. Not because they don't care, but because they want the child to grow some muscle.
Exactly. It reminds me of how God left those enemy nations around Israel, not out of cruelty, but to train and test them. They had to learn obedience in a real world context, not in theory, but in tension. Judges 3 tells us that God allowed those nations to remain, not to destroy Israel, but to refine them.
And isn't that just like life? For the final year student grinding at KNUST, or a young apprentice in Kumasi who keeps getting mugged for not cutting cloth right, you begin to ask, God, why this hardship? But maybe the hardship is the workshop.
Training and testing. Those aren't comfortable words, but neither is growth. Just like cassava must be boiled before it's pounded, our faith gets tender through heat. James chapter 1 verse 2 to 4 makes it clear trials aren't the problem. They are part of the solution.
And it's not just about building strength, it's about purifying love. God was raising a people who wouldn't just worship Him in comfort, but would remain faithful when surrounded by idolaters. Our walk with God today is no different.
Look at verse 4. God tested Israel to know whether they would obey. That hits hard because some of us are stuck in the circle of deliverance and disobedience. When the money comes, we forget. When the pain hits, we pray. Then when comfort returns, we forget again.
We are not so different from Israel, and that's the point of reflection. It's not to shame them, it's to expose us. As the devotional says, how many times have we gone back to God, asking for mercy for the same sin, over and over again?
There's a proverb in Ghana that says, the one who refuses to learn find that the same cane waits in the same corner. In other words, if you don't grow through the test, we repeat the lesson.
That's why God doesn't remove every difficulty. For the young women trying to live chaste in a hyper-sexualized culture, or the retired teacher who's struggling with relevance, your trial isn't punishment. It might just be God's gym for your soul.
And then verse 10, we see something beautiful. When God raised Othniel, the Spirit of Lord came upon him. That wasn't just about leadership, it was empowerment. God doesn't test without equipping. That same Spirit is available to us today.
So the question isn't whether life will test us, it will. The question is whether we will allow the test to train us or tempt us away from God.
As we round off today, think about this. What if the delay, the dryness, or the difficulty is not a detour, but divine discipline, not to punish, but to purify?
The silence you are hearing might not be God's absence. It could be His method of maturing you.
Whether you are in a lorry stuck in a car traffic, behind a sewing machine in Ho, or sitting quietly on your veranda in Tamale, pause and ask, what is God forming in me here?
Because He's still with you, and sometimes His greatest work happens in the classroom of hardship.
Let's whisper, this together in our hearts. Lord, enough of going back to my vomit. Grant me grace to be an overcomer in every area of my life. This week, let the fire of trial not consume your faith, but refine it. And may you not only recognize the test, but also pass it.
Don't fear the training. God is not a wicked taskmaster. He's a wise father. And every day you choose obedience in detention, you're becoming the kind of disciple this world desperately needs.